Just checking to see that my haircut is okay. And it wasn't, so what the hell should I do? I fix my hair. Man, there we go. Hair fixed. When you're on the wrong side of 40, you don't have to be over concerned about your hair. That's good. That's a good thing. Although it does seem weird that the hair is kind of moving around on the body. It just switches from body part to body part. I'm fine with that though. As long as I don't grow hair on my fingertips, I should be okay. Cool, so I think we're live. I'm gonna be jamming a little bit. I started with a backing track, but then it was like, man, I felt like playing a cappella. Hey there, aspiring guitarist for canon rock. I don't know. What is canon rock? Can't play it, sorry. That's that. I don't know. I can't play it. I'm really sorry about that. So anyhow, I didn't feel like doing like the backing track thing. I just sometimes it's kind of cool to just play on your own, and if you don't have any backing track, you don't have anything sort of how should I say, disguising your playing, you're more susceptible to fixing stuff in your playing. Sweep picking, yeah, sure, we can do that. So for example, sweep picking, you might be tempted to think that your sweeps are perfectly fine when you have a backing track and you can't hear what's going on. But if you play them slowly without a backing track, and you can't hear every note, then you know that you have something to work on. Hi, how did you do your crazy bending stuff? Couldn't figure it out. Cool, so you're referring to the short video, right? With 2.5 bend. There we have it. Ouch. Almost in tune. So the thing is, for that extreme bending, yeah, pretty much in tune. There you have it. Ouch, don't want to do too often though. The thing is, with that kind of bending, as always with bending, you got to work with the reference pitch, right? So you want to hear the pitch you're trying to reach before you try to play it. So if we take a more basic example, you can play the E here on the 17th fret, and you can bend up to it from the 15th fret. And I was too sharp there, one more time. So there you have it. So that's the first step. The second step is to make sure all these fingers are helping out. Way too often do I see people, all weird types of bending, and they're like, well, this works fine. Yeah, well, it might work fine for that specific bend, but maybe you want to expand and do different types of bends. Then you're going to benefit from a technique where all fingers are helping out. So yeah, be sure to have all your fingers in the game when bending. That's super important. Sequence alternate picking with 120 BPM speed. Okay, so that BPM speed is really only interesting if you speak about a certain beat subdivision. So for example, 16th note triplets, 120 BPM, that would be very, very fast. Probably something like that, right? Whereas if you're speaking 16th notes, it's not that bad with 120 BPM. Maybe something like that. So this is a very interesting thing. You're saying you fear to have too much power to break the strings. This is something I encounter a lot. People saying I can't bend because I might break a string. I think this is the wrong way to go about it, and the reason being, you might break a string occasionally, but if the fear of breaking a string limits you from attempting new ways of bending, then you might be playing the wrong instrument, because bending is the coolest thing we can do. So even if we break a string once in a while, we should bend often. And the thing is, if that happens a lot, then you should probably get into the habit of changing your strings more often, because if a string is to the point that it might break, and that happens to me all the time, then I probably should have changed strings weeks ago, because old strings affect your playing in other ways. You know, it's going to affect your intonation, it's going to affect your tone. So it's just crap. Old strings are not fun anyway. So if you feel like, no, I can't bend because I might break a string, then you should probably just change strings more often. That would be my take on it. But let's see here if we can find some 120 BPM. We have a metronome here. Here's 120. So 16th notes. Ouch, too loud. Kills my ears. Of course, we can take an easier pattern if we mess up, so it's just like... So that's 16th notes, right? Now, 16th notes means we're playing 4 notes per beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if we want it to become more difficult, then all we have to do is play more notes per beat subdivision. So instead of thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, we could try to count to a higher number. It's like 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It gets hard to... So we can slow down a little bit and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. This is nothing for beginners, right? Just to make that clear. So 120 BPM is borderline for picking for me. Legato, I think we're okay. So these are 6 notes per beat. So picking. It's okay. I wasn't picking every note there, but in the ballpark. With more of a strict pattern, I couldn't do it, I think. Like, oh, I could. Good news. Let's try it one more time. Oh. So yeah, a little bit of 120 BPM, 16th note triplets. So I was picking 6 notes per beat there. Aspiring guitarist foreigner, let me know if that's what you meant. Whew, gotta play some melodies now after that shredding. So he said, and he shredded away. So it's kind of tricky when you're playing a cappella like this with tons of gain. You really need to focus in order not to have all this noise come through. And that's kind of what I'm practicing when I'm playing like this. Just try to get a good tone without any unwanted strings ringing. And for this purpose, you can see I'm kind of resting my fingers on the string here. That helps a lot. Hi Chris, I've been learning a tapping part in a song on the high E. Problem is I keep pushing off the string of the neck of the guitar. How can I fix this? Cool question, Lars. So if you're tapping something and you keep pushing the string off the neck, then you're probably making a downward tap, right? I wouldn't really recommend that, because if you tap downwards, you have to move your whole arm, so like this, right? It's kind of hard to do that with the wrist. Very people do this with the wrist. They're gonna move the whole arm when tapping like this. So I recommend you tap upwards, because then you can only use the finger movement, which is much more convenient. So you can see I'm tapping boop, boop, upwards. So not only is that gonna solve the problem of the string going outside of the fretboard, but you're also gonna make a much more effective and basically flexible and better tapping movement. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Thank you so much, Leandro. So the string action, do you mean not the gauge, right? So the string action, a little bit depending on the guitar. I have some guitars set up for more of this kind of thing, right? Where you go more aggressive with the picking, and in those cases, it's more convenient with a bit of a higher action. This guitar is set very low. It's even been plecked once back in the days. So I would say on the high E string is probably like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 millimeters, 1.4 millimeters. Pretty good. Not extreme, but it's a really nice guitar, I think. Nice setup. You know, the guitar is made of wood, and wood moves. So a lot of times, if you can get a good string action, after a while, what's going to happen is you're still going to get some buzzing around where the neck meets the body. So you have a choice between maybe seeking up a luthier to help you out with that, or raising the action a little bit, or live with some buzz and even some bend notes that don't work. So basically, when a bend gets cut off, that's usually, yeah, because you have a fret that's being annoying with you. Raz, would you do a reaction movie? To your old stuff. Cool. So I would basically sit and watch my old stuff and react. That's a cool idea. I'd break down and cry, because it was better than I could do these days. So I don't know how useful that would be. You'd see a grown man crying. Sounds like some kind of Trump ad or something. All the grown men were crying. Tjena mannen, hälsningar från Finland. Tony, stort tack! Härligt! Det är lite Scandinavian people here. But it's a cool request, Ruz. We could definitely think about that. I'm in the process of brainstorming and experimenting a little bit with new types of videos. So I might definitely try something like that. Right now, I'm just trying to find my way back to some more traditional YouTube tutorials, a little bit longer than the average short video. So hopefully you're going to see more of that coming in as well. A lot of time when you see me jamming around like that, I think it doesn't really, it's not very interesting unless you mix scales with arpeggios. I think that's kind of the key whenever I move around like this. And on top of that, when that gets boring, I like to throw in more dissonance and maybe some chromatics. I think it's pretty cool. So you could do, oh wait. It's a bit extreme, but it's fun. that's why you know, I like to emphasize arpeggios not just as your kind of sweeping tool to, you know, do that one trick. I mean, it's fun for that as well, and that can, you can make that fit into, you know, music as well. You know, somewhat, but I think arpeggios can be so much more than that, and something I like to speak about. You know, you can really have an arpeggio be like the basis for your melody. This is not innovative in any way, you know, all musicians in other styles do it, but just for rock guitar, we've gotten into the habit to use arpeggios mainly for sweeping, you know, but you can... I mess up all the time, but yeah, so I like to do that. I just came across your live stream, and oh boy, it's been a while. I remember watching your videos and being very inspired when I was starting out playing guitar. It must have been almost 17 years. Yeah, I know. It's crazy how time has passed. Damn it! Time flies! We should be very happy to still be around and still be playing our guitars. So Tony, I guess from the Ultimate Guitar days, maybe then? Do you have any tips on string skipping on a rather fast part, like in technical difficulties from pigato? Because even after practicing a lot, stays quite hard. Yeah, I do, but I don't do it the same way as Paul, I think. I do a lot of string skipping. If you look at my right hand, so this is like a pedal point with a string skip. This will be a bit more Paul Gilbert inspired, but I totally rely on the right hand here. So the technique I use for string skipping, when playing fast at least, is always hybrid legato. So I'm using a combination of legato and hybrid picking, and it's just totally superior. Sometimes if I'm in if I have a good picking day, I will do more picking and less legato. But I know that even if I have a bad day, as long as I'm properly warmed up, I can definitely do some string skippings thanks to hybrid legato. With picking, it gets a little bit harder, but this would be the Paul Gilbert way of doing it. Ouch. So, I mean, it's doable, it just requires a lot more practice and a lot more warm-up. So I think the easy fix is to practice legato, so you can do any legato exercise. And then try to do that on two non-consecutive strings, so like on the G string and the high E string. And now I'm using picking, right? And because it's slowly, it works. But if I were playing fast, I would move to hybrid picking, right? So you can see, and I might mess up, but I almost never mess up by hitting the wrong string if I use this technique. With standard picking, I constantly hit the wrong string for this kind of thing. So it's much easier with hybrid legato, because you can already like pre-position your finger on the right string. You can rest it there, so you're 100% sure you're going to be hitting the right string once the time is right. Whereas with picking, you constantly have to reposition your hand, and that's when you mess up. So that would be my advice. Yeah. 15 years ago, I think, probably the Loner video. Yeah, for sure. I always remember that video and you having guitar I had never seen before. So in a Loner, I think I was using this guitar. You can almost see it there, the Strat. I have my guitars are a mess right now, so can't really see what is what. have some chromatics. That's what I wanted to show you before. If you do it like that, it sounds like the flight of the bumblebee, right? Excessive chromatics. But if you just throw in like 2 or 3 chromatic notes at a time, then it gets more like, I don't know, a bit bebop-ish, like. Yeah, it's crazy. You were 13, 14 back then, now you're 31, yeah. It's hard to believe how time passes, you know. Try to, you know, I don't know when this comes to people, but I've like the last few years I've realized how mortal I am. I think part of the reason is I have gotten an ear injury and I just struggling to get rid of it. And it's like, wow, if that could happen to the ear, then what could happen to the rest of my body? But it's crazy how we, at least those of us fortunate to be healthy, we just don't understand how life is just like alone, right? You get to be alive for a few years and that's it. So make sure you have a good time and practice and have fun. You never know how it's going to end, right? Or when it's going to end. I think I turned the topic into dark. There's also something I like to do a lot. Basically, use this hybrid legato technique for pentatonics. And it just sounds totally different because, well, for one, we're not really used to hearing pentatonics with legato that way. But also, we get a lot of doubling of the notes, right? So if we use a wide fingering for legato or for pentatonics, we're going to constantly be doubling notes. So, and that gives you a very special sound. So it's fun to you know, grab a technique you would typically play with like a minor or major scale or the modes, and just apply that on a scale where you wouldn't usually do it, and that's going to give you very cool results. And just as I said in one of my recent shorts, if you're struggling with a stretch up here to play those wide stretch pentatonics, what you can do is just practice your average minor scale, but down here, and that kind of prepares you for a stretch, right? Because even your standard minor scale, like E minor, if you play down here, G minor, it's already going to be much stretchier. So from doing that, then the step to moving up and doing 3-note per string pentatonics isn't really that big, you know, it's the same kind of stretch. It's a similar stretch compared to this. Sound like that. Cool, Sarang. So there you had your pentatonic exercise there. I mean, you could, if you want to do these stretchy things, left-hand stretchy things, then you would just do like a 6-note pattern, maybe something standard like 17th fret with a pinky, pull off to 12th fret, 15, 17, and then back to 15, and then 12. So 6 notes. 17, 12, 15, 17, 15, 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would be like a 6-note exercise, and you can do. This is rather advanced, so I'm always unsure what level you want me to be showing stuff, because I was shredding now, so I'm showing you something which is similar to my shredding. But this thing gets a little bit easier if you move it up, right? You could, if your guitar reach or fretboard reach allows you to play it in A minor here. So doing 22, 17, 20, 22, and then back to 20 and then 17. then it gets much more manageable in terms of stretching. So that's one way to do it. If you want a more intermediate tip, then I would recommend doing some legato with just like chromatics. You could do 15-12 like that. So you pick and you pull off, and then after that you don't need to pick. So if you can do this, then you try doing the same with the 14th fret, right? And then 13th fret, and this practice all your fingers. This is a good legato exercise, and it definitely opens up for this kind of thing further down the road. So just undo it chromatically. Very cool exercise. It doesn't sound like much fun, but if you can play this and then you can start applying it to your scales. It gets interesting, right? In blues we trust. That's right. Well, you did. From blues to fusion to shred. Can't help it. Cheers, Tony. Awesome to see you here again, man. Deathcore. I had a good stamina, so to say, but after some minute, it really becomes tiring. Yeah, I don't know what. I mean, if you're playing fast melodies, I don't know if it's the left hand or the right hand that's giving you issues. Deathcore sounds. I don't know what you're playing, but in general, if you're kind of hopping onto a song right away that has a high tempo, the risk is just overwhelming that you're going to be playing a bit above your comfort speed, and that means you're constantly going to be tensing up. So if you can just design some basic exercises out of those melodies that you can play slowly and make sure you're relaxed. I don't know whatever the riff is, but if you can just basically pull it down to a manageable tempo and just spend some time playing it being totally relaxed, then usually that solves those kind of tension issues. Sorry, Sarang, I don't know any John Mayer. I haven't played any cover songs for like 10 or 15 years. Oh, so 45-minute tensed up. Yeah. There's no other way then than spending those at least those 45 minutes in a practice environment and just being completely relaxed. So that's how you're going to be able to do it. There's no other way. A lot of people, if you're really used to playing those riffs with some tension, it can be hard to even define what a relaxed technique is. In general, you probably want to practice it. One way to kind of gauge that is to try to use a picking movement that doesn't even involve these muscles, maybe just the wrist. Then you're going to be very relaxed. I'm not saying that's going to be the end product. I'm saying that's one way to practice to kind of turbocharge your wrist movement, and that is going to help you once you start involving all muscles. But also just the overall feeling of your body should be like right before you're falling asleep, you know? Try to just sit and before you practice, be relaxed and feel like your head is gonna fall and you're falling asleep. That kind of feeling, that should be the same feeling in your upper body when you're practicing. If you can reach that level of controlling tension and being relaxed, and then you can spend some time practicing the riffs like that, then you will in the longer run be able to play those things in a super relaxed manner. So Sarah, that's a cool question. I get it all the time. You know, what guitar for shredding? And the answer is, of course, that there are a million choices. So many good guitars out there. And there are also, even if you're looking at the same brand and model, two different guitars can feel totally different. So giving you a general answer is very hard. And also then we have personal preferences. I think there's some kind of consensus that these metal guitars with like a set through neck and pretty flat radius fretboard, this is not extreme, it's like a D, I would say, D shape, but kind of wide and flat fretboard. That's a good recipe for shredding. But then you have people like Yngwie Malmsteen who shreds on a like a vintage style Strat, but you know, with really massive frets. I mean, he uses both jumbo frets, I think, and scallop, and that works for some people. So giving you a general answer is hard there. In fact, I like to advocate for many guitars. I love having many guitars, but you don't need many guitars. You can, in fact, you can really start shredding on any guitar as long as you're aware of, you know, the technique stuff that matters, which is exactly what we're speaking about here, just controlling tension. If you can be relaxed, then you can almost shred on any guitar. Do I use pick slanting? Yeah, I do. The more I pick and the less I legato, the more I'm doing pick slanting in both directions. But for, you know, this kind of pentatonic stuff, the blazing pentatonic stuff, then it's almost always downward pick slanting. So you start with like the pick parallel to the string, I would angle it downwards like this. And that's super important because you get the escape motion when you go up also produces a note, and that's how you kind of double your speed. Oh, and I messed up. That kind of thing, right? That's all downward pick slanting. And then, you know, whenever I try to play like an uneven amount of notes per string, so that kind of thing, we're playing 3 notes per string, then I use two-way pick slanting. And the way that works is some people overcomplicate things with like, yeah, it's so difficult re-angling. But I mean, this stuff has been done decades before guys like Troy Grady came around and explained it to everybody. And the way to think about it, if you want a simplified version, is just to think that, well, if you're going to be playing two-way pick slanting or 3 notes per string, an uneven amount of notes per string, then you don't want to be too much like that or too much like that. You want to be in the middle, and then you're going to naturally kind of, what's the word, tilt your pick as you need it when practicing slowly. You can't even tell I'm doing it here, a little bit maybe. That would be the extreme version, but you can't tell. If you're going to play a fast 3 note per string and pick every note, there's no way around that, like, which is described as two-way pick slanting, but it's really just keeping your pick in the middle and slightly adjusting as you move along the strings. It's hard. That's one of the hardest things you can do on the guitar, I think, pick on an uneven amount of notes per string. So what I do, if I'm not in a very good shape, I will just maybe pick 2 notes and add the 3rd legato note. I call this pigato. So as you can see, it looks much more relaxed. it doesn't sound that different from picking every note. Here I'm picking almost every note. And here I'm doing like a pigato approach. I messed up a little bit. But the difference isn't huge, and learning to pick every note, we're speaking about several more years of practicing. And obviously I've put in a lot of years, so I don't want to completely lose it. But if I were restarting from scratch, I would probably just rely on, hybrid legato, pigato, and not pick every note. It's not really needed. It's cool, but it's not a necessity. In the blues genre, yeah, well, I would say SRV for sure, but I like people who do. There's this Eric Shekel, like a new guy or relative, he's very active on social media. I think Eric Shekel is. He does this like shred metal blues thing. I really like Blues Saraceno. He's been around for a long time, but the way he combines super groovy blues licks with like a more shreddy approach, to me is extremely tasty. But you have John Mayer, who's a god, Joe Bonamassa, a lot of good, well, way too many to list actually. But I like blues that has a bit of a shreddy touch, and you can find some of those as well. I think Blues Saraceno was one of the first to do that, and I still think he's unmatched in terms of sound and feel. B.B. King for sure, yeah, fantastic. Early, I mean, if you go back, you have I guess Robert Johnson and so many good people. Jimi Hendrix. But it is a good idea to, I think, for almost anybody working on rock guitar to learn a few blues licks. It's not a must. If you hate it, don't do it. But it's really useful because it just totally injects melody, feel, and articulation into your playing. So, I mean, it's just totally going to raise your playing to a new level with just a few basic blues licks. So if you already know the major scale, then I'm assuming you know the pentatonic scale as well. If you don't, then that would be my #1 recommendation. After that, I would learn the minor scale. So those are really some important building blocks. And in fact, whenever I teach theory, I usually have those scales as a reference. So if you want to learn the sound of Dorian, then I typically recommend people start with the pentatonic scale and just add one note, which is like, not to get too much into theory, but it's called the major sixth. It's that one note which really defines the Dorian sound. And I think that's a superior way of learning the modes, because a lot of people think learning the modes is about memorizing patterns, but you have to start by trying to hear why a mode sounds cool. If you can hear that and you just play one or two licks that emphasize that sound, then kind of memorizing the bigger shapes gets so much easier. Do you use a guitar interface for filming your TikTok videos, or is it straight the amplifier? Most of the time, it's straight from the amplifier. I do have this microphone that I can plug to my phone and gives me a better sound if I angle it towards the amp. but I am actually thinking about getting a camera now. My old trusty camera died a few years ago, and I haven't really prioritized a new camera, but I would like to get one at some point because I need more options. Right now, if I want a really good guitar sound, I can't really avoid recording audio separately through the computer and then recording with the phone. That's fine. I mean, a lot of people do that, but if you want to produce a lot of content, and I've been uploading between like 2 or 3 up to 6 videos per day, then that kind of approach is too time consuming. So, but yeah, a lot of times you're just hearing the amp in the room, and it does work, especially I think for some shreddy stuff, it works better. I don't know really why. For some, if you want to record rhythm or something that's more articulated phrasing, then I either, use the additional microphone I showed you, or I'm going to have to go the complex route and record audio separately. Cool. So what is relative minor and parallel major? That kind of thing is sometimes hard to explain when it's just one directional, right? But I think the easy way to look at that is if you have a major scale, like the G major, that major scale is always going to have like a relative minor scale. And that simply means that it contains the exact same notes and the exact shape as that relative minor scale. So this typically doesn't make people any smarter. So you're probably wondering, well, what should I do with that knowledge? You don't have to do that much. It's not really a good way to learn scales thinking like that. But it can be useful further down the road to understand that the difference between the G major scale and its relative minor scale, which is E minor, you can only hear that difference whenever the bass note is changing harmony, right? Because you're playing the same notes. So if you hear like a G chord in the background, then those 7 notes are going to sound major. If you hear an E minor chord in the background, then those same 7 notes are going to sound like minor. And if you hear some other chord, maybe like A minor, then you're going to be hearing the Dorian mode. So as I said, this is not useful to learn new scales. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's extremely confusing when you're trying to learn something and you've been told, oh, well, just learn the major scale and you have all the modes. No, you don't. Not in a useful way. But it is very useful to understand that a lot of times we get different sounds and harmonies by playing the exact same notes and shape, but just hearing a different bass note. That's useful to know, but you should still approach these scales as separate scales. Otherwise, you're making it very difficult for yourself. There's no shortcut to truly learning how like the Dorian mode sounds just by thinking of a major scale all over the place. No way. Yes, it can help you visualize where the notes are, but it won't help you actually play the Dorian note, because to actually play the Dorian scale or note or mode, you have to understand what makes it different so you can emphasize those notes. Otherwise, you're just going to be playing the major scale and it won't sound very special. So yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know the solo to Master of Puppets. I messed up. I'm giving my grade exams. I'm a little confused. Okay, that's the best thing I can say. But you just want the proper definition of it, then Google and Chat GPT or whatever is going to help you with that. But I think the main thing here is understanding that by moving around the bass note and the bass harmony, we can play the same scale but it's going to sound different. So in this case, if you're playing G major and switch the chord to the relative minor, which would be E minor, and keep playing the G major scale, then you're in fact playing the E minor scale. And likewise, if you're playing, let's say, the A minor scale, and the strum or the backing changes to C major, which is the relative major of E minor, then you're effectively going to be playing the C major scale, even though you started out in A minor. It's, as I said, it's not very useful when you're starting out, but it's a fact. And the more advanced you get, the more you can utilize that fact whenever you're doing stuff on the guitar. I love Matthias Asado. I wish I could play like him. It's awesome. I just would love to be able to play chord melodies the way he does, and to be able to integrate our rhythm and separate bass line and the melody on top and having the harmony at the same time. It's just awesome. So he's doing like 3 or 4 different instruments as once, whereas most of us are happy if we can just play a nice lead. He does everything at the same time: rhythm, bass, like a bass progression, and all that at the same time. It's awesome. Very cool. Cool, Laura. So there's a good question about which technique to use when picking. So have you guys seen my recent video where I speak about my #1 picking hack, which deals explicitly with that thumb movement? So basically, Lars is asking whether it's good to completely rely on this movement. And I would say that to the extent possible, it's awesome, because this movement is very relaxed, very controlled. The only problem is that movement has its limitations. You can't rely on this movement only for shredding across several different strings. It doesn't work. You're going to have to use your wrist to reposition your pick so you can keep doing your thumb movement. So that means it only really works if you're playing on one string. So if you're playing on one string, you can really get away with that. That's the Yngwie way of doing it. But as soon as you start involving more strings, you're going to have to reposition with your wrist. So it's a great technique if you use it as much as possible, but you can't really use it for going across strings. That would be my reply. So 2 cents for memorizing notes on the fretboard. Well, I think my advice would be a lot of people start off by having like some reference, right? You know that, well, if you can memorize what the open strings are, this is the E string, then you know that between E and F, there's a half step, so F should be here, and then there's a whole step. I'd just like to say that while that's okay just in the very beginning, that's not really going to help you in a fast way to visualize where the notes are. So what I had a private tutor for 1 year back in the days, and what he did at the beginning of every lesson, he would tell me to put the guitar down, and he would basically ask me for, well, okay, 7th fret D string, and the thing is, you want to quickly be able to find the different notes and not having to kind of look, okay, which string am I on? What's the name of that string? That doesn't really work well. So it's more of I always hated in school how they made you remember stuff without understanding it. That's usually horrible practice, I think, in school. But this will be an exception. I would really recommend you learn the notes on the fretboard without a system. You just have to know where they are. If you really want to be able to quickly and effectively like improvise over chord progression, stuff like that. But for most people who just want to play a rock solo and play a rhythm and riffs, you don't even need a quick system. Then it's okay to do your thinking. But if you really want to be in control and really efficiently want to know where the notes are, then you need to learn it without a system, because your system isn't going to save you if you need to find a note and you just have like a split second to do it. The forbidden riff. Should also be forbidden. The best guitarist, it's me! Woohoo! What's up, mate? I recognize your username. Doing good. Can't pronounce your username though. Your playing is epic. Thanks so much, the best guitarist. I get to hear that my playing is epic from the best guitarist in the world. That's awesome. Thank you, Davey. Thanks so much, man. Trying to get better at, throwing in those tapping runs in a more like an improvised way. So, spending a lot of time just trying to build improvised melodies with tapping. It's a little bit hard. It's very hard. I think it's going to be worth it because once I can do that, it just totally frees you up. Because if you come up with a cool melody, like the pentatonic scale, then you're just limited to that position. But if you come up with a cool melody using tapping, that mega wide interval is always just a split second away, right? But it's a work in progress. Cool, mate. Awesome. From Russia, please stay peaceful, man. We don't want any more invasions. But I'm very happy to have you around, man, if we can have a great peaceful discussion here. Yeah, so tapping. And of course, this is like two-handed tapping. So it kind of relies on me producing sounds with my left hand. So I need to be able to get sound just like this. Then I can add the tapping. So that's an important detail. Davey, you play too. Awesome. You can steal all my licks, the best guitarist. Very, very proud and happy to share my licks with you guys. That's fun, whenever you manage to pull something like that off. And also, I mean, those kind of things, it's not going to sound like anything else you're doing because you have those wide intervals. You could never do that even with a fantastic left-hand technique. So it's good stuff. Our team, yes, that's right. Peace, man. That's another thing I'm doing right now. I'm trying to get better at that melodic minor scale. Pretty fun stuff. Sounds really out, but when you've been playing the minor scale for like 25 years, then you get tired of that sound. It's really refreshing. Oh, I don't even know who Davey 505 is. Is he some drummer or singer or something? So blues enthusiast, for sure, my tip if you want to go quickly back and forth between two different strings, that is to use hybrid picking. It's totally superior. So whenever you see me going quickly between two strings, I very rarely do the pick because the pick tends to mess up. So I do, you can see my right hand. Oh, I've probably seen him then, the Davey bassist. You can see I'm using pick and hybrid finger all the time. So I use hybrid picking to solve the problem of hitting the wrong string. More specifically, I like hybrid legato, which is, the technique that gives you both the flexibility but also the speed, right? Because if you combine hybrid picking with legato, you get these crazy runs, but they are still very controlled. Thanks for the good wishes, man. Hybrid picking is really key, and it's, in fact, if I were starting out now, I wouldn't use picking, or I would use hybrid picking or even just the fingers, So I think if you're like me and you spend a lot of time learning to use the pick, so in other words, doing that kind of thing and doing a bit of, that kind of picking, and you want to be able to keep doing that, then hybrid picking is the perfect compromise because you can add all the benefits with with fingerstyle playing, but you don't lose that ability to do your picking stuff. So it's just a good compromise. I don't have a 7-string guitar. I would like to have a 5-string guitar. I would like to go in the other direction. So, but we'll see. So this guitar is an EVH, no, it's not an EVH, an LTD MH1000. Yeah, it's MH LTD, yeah, LTD Deluxe. It has those extra eye candy. I think it looks good, but this is basically a cheaper version of the ESP guitars. I think great value for money. I swapped the pickups for a bare knuckle, the Mule, but to be honest with you, the pickups that were in it were pretty decent. This classic Seymour Duncan GB and the 59 combo. So good stuff, but this is better, I think. I'm a little skeptical whenever, output is too loud. So the thing is, with those pickups, I actually ended up using the super switch more and going for the in-between positions and just split positions. Whereas with these pickups, I actually end up using the humbuckers more, and these pickups are a little too weak for the split positions. So it's always going to be a compromise. Yeah, Mark Knopfler is awesome. And you can definitely see my right hand is always doing the hybrid stuff. How do you hold that little thing? Which one? The pick? This is actually a thing a lot of people get wrong when they try to pick for the first time. They grab the pick in this kind of pinch movement, which totally makes sense, you know, just for grabbing the pick. But this doesn't make sense for playing. It's impossible to play like this, you know. There are a few guitarists that try to do it, but for most people, this is not effective. And in fact, all the tips I give regarding picking sort of requires you to have a more natural grip, like this. So if you want to be able to do this kind of two-note per string picking, then you need to grip the pick not like this, but you need to join your thumb and your index finger in a very natural way. Okay, this is natural for the hand, this is not. Okay, combine it in a natural way, and then push your pick into a 90-degree angle to the thumb. This is how you hold the pick. And once you hold the pick like this, then you can start applying all those things we speak about, like two-way pick slanting, one-way pick slanting, and just being smart about picking efficiently kind of requires you to hold the pick like that. You don't ever want to hold like that, you know, it doesn't work. Whoops. So, yeah, that's not a Music Man. That's an EVH Wolfgang Standard. It's the same shape as a Music Man, but actually that's the only guitar right now which isn't playable. For some reason, it's almost like the truss rod has gotten stuck. I can't really bring the strings down. So I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that a little bit. I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's one of my favorite guitars, but just so busy producing content right now, so I'm just playing the guitars that work for me currently. At some point I need to look into it and fix it. So how thick should your picks be? Well, for most part, I like picks that you can't bend, okay? So that's gonna mean like 1 millimeter and above. There are some instances where I like bendable picks, especially when playing like acoustic guitars. But I really don't like it for electric guitar. It gives you this delay, which is strange. The thing is, for acoustic, I need it because otherwise just crossing the string is too difficult for some reason. I can't explain why, and probably need to think a bit more about it. But in general, a thicker pick, 1 millimeter and above, with a somewhat pointy edge, that's the recipe. And a lot of people like these Jazz 3s. Can't tell it's a Jazz 3, but you have my word for it. And I like I think it's called Tortex. Just a bit less slippery. But, you know, any Jazz 3 is pretty much in the ballpark. Sven Andersen, can you stop noodling and play some spicy chords? Tricky stuff. No, I couldn't. Sorry. I was still noodling. Yeah, this is actually Korean, but I doubt they're still doing them there now. I think they might have shifted production maybe to Indonesia. I don't know. This guitar is, yeah, it's probably 15 years old. Cool, guys. I'm gonna have to end the stream as much as it pains me, but I have this ambition of doing live streams on my 4 social media platforms on Sundays. So far, I've only done two on one day. It's a little bit exhausting just being in shape for each. But if you want to catch me on the next one, you can just go to my profile and you have a link there with like a link tree thing with a list to all my social media profiles. So you can catch me on one of the other platforms. I'll probably, if I can get to it, will do one on Facebook as well today. But it's been awesome having you guys around, and I really like the fact that you guys seem to be working on my other videos on the channel. That's a big honor, so please keep at it, and let me know if you have any requests for future videos. It would be awesome to cover it. Have a good one. See ya. Cheers.